When I was first given the assignment Connection to Chemistry, I pretty much immediately knew that I wanted to discuss the interconnectedness of the world around us and how chemistry plays into that. But so my knee-jerk reaction after that was to ask, why are all things interconnected? But as with all things, basically all things, it's a lot harder to discern the meaning of something than it is to determine the nature of something. And so I decided that rather than delve into why things are interconnected, I should instead talk about the fact that they are. And there's a lot of chemistry dealing with the reality of interconnectedness in the world. So at the heart of connection of any kind, I would argue, is the component of communication. It doesn't necessarily have to be verbal between people. It doesn't have to be body language. It doesn't have to be scent marking, but there's some form of communication that takes place with all forms of life on Earth. They have to interact with their environment, communicate with their environment, and even other members of the same species in order to survive. One of the best examples I could think of to that end would be trees. We're all familiar with them. We know what they do, how they act, sort of. We know that they're living members of an ecosystem. We know that they interact with their environment. They respond to stimuli. Trees in winter, they shed their leaves to conserve energy. And a pine tree, for example, will release sap at the site of an injury. Once it does, it can start healing from the inside. Something I was less aware of, and am now more aware of, was an even deeper level of interconnectedness that happens actually underground, where trees are actually communicating with other forms of life, primarily fungi. These fungi, composed of the same things as a tree at the end of the day, actually help to secure nutrients for the tree, and in exchange, they get carbon, something they desperately need. But what does this ultimately have to do with chemistry? We can say fundamentally that all life forms on Earth, regardless of what they are, rely on a few key components. And we've actually identified many of these components basically as the chemical elements. Oxygen, crucial for us to exist. Hydrogen and oxygen working together to form water. Carbon alone represents about half of the biomass on planet Earth. Once we acknowledge this, we become aware of a basically irrefutable truth that despite all the distinction between us and amongst us, we rely on the same key components. And from here we can take another step further and form an even more intimate understanding of what's happening around us. We can understand the valencies of elements like carbon and oxygen, why carbon can form such long chains and build the life we see around us. From sticks on the ground to trees high up in the air, squirrels climbing the trees, and an entire ecosystem underground that we can't see, archaea, bacteria, in completely different domains of life. All of it is connected. And the more we understand, the more it basically becomes very clear that it is all connected through communication, through relying on the same things, through occupying the same space. It becomes clear that it's all interconnected. And so at the end of the day, my connection to chemistry is that interconnectedness is chemistry. The world around us is chemistry.